She leaned in, placed her hand on his knee, and I stood just 10 steps away, watching my wife kiss another man. No exaggeration. It happened right in front of me, in a public park, in broad daylight. And the worst part? She was the one who suggested we come here to save our marriage. A few weeks earlier, she had sat me down at the kitchen table, looked me in the eyes, and said, "I don't want to lose this. Let's do something. No phones, no distractions, just walks. Just you and me, reconnecting." I thought maybe, just maybe, we were turning a corner. That Saturday started like any other. Angela wore this soft blue hoodie she always liked, tied her hair back in a ponytail, and even put on a touch of lip gloss. I noticed it. I didn't say anything, but I noticed. It was more effort than usual, and I wanted to believe it was for me. We walked the trail loop near the lake. It was quiet. Trees were starting to change, just the early hints of fall. I stopped for a second to retie my shoelace while she walked ahead. That's when he showed up. I didn't even see where he came from. One second the bench was empty. The next, he was sitting next to her. He looked ordinary. Hoodie, running shoes, earbuds dangling, like a guy who'd just finished a jog. But then I saw her body language, how she shifted toward him, how her hand touched his arm. My stomach dropped. She laughed, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I watched her place her hand on his knee like it belonged there. Then she leaned in, and they kissed. It wasn't a quick kiss. It wasn't platonic. It was slow, intimate, the kind of kiss that comes from knowing someone, from wanting someone. And I was just standing there, frozen. There's this weird thing your brain does when something breaks inside you. It tries to rationalize it. I told myself maybe she knew him. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But no. I knew exactly what I saw. By the time she noticed me watching, the guy had already stood up and walked away. Never looked at me. Didn't say a word. Angela turned to me and smiled, like nothing had happened. "You good?" she asked, brushing something off her lap. I stared at her. We walked the rest of the loop in silence. My chest felt like it was caving in, but I said nothing. I didn't trust my voice. I didn't even know what to ask. Back at the car, I finally spoke. "Who was that guy?" She didn't even flinch. "Him? Oh, just some dude who thought he recognized me from college. Weird, right?" She said it with a laugh, like she'd rehearsed the line. I didn't respond. I just drove us home. That night, I slept in the guest room. She didn't ask why. The next morning, she made pancakes. Like nothing had happened. I sat at the kitchen island, sipping coffee, trying not to shake. She stood by the stove, humming, like we were just a normal couple enjoying Sunday brunch. I couldn't bring myself to eat. Every time she walked by me, all I could see was her lips on his. The way she smiled at him. The way she touched his knee like she'd done it before. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked, flipping another pancake. I wanted to scream. Did I sleep okay? After watching you kiss a stranger while I tied my shoes? Instead, I lied. "Yeah, just tired." She nodded, like that answer made sense. Like we hadn't stood on opposite sides of a marriage-ending moment the day before. After breakfast, she said she was going to run a quick errand. Wouldn't say where. I asked if she wanted company. She gave a polite smile and said, "Nah, just groceries. I'll be fast." I watched her car pull out of the driveway. Then I followed her. I know how that sounds. I didn't want to be that guy. But something in my gut said this wasn't over. That kiss wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a fluke. I needed to know. She didn't go to the grocery store. She drove to a different park on the other side of town. Smaller, more secluded. Hardly anyone there. I parked far back and watched from behind a row of trees. 10 minutes passed. Then he showed up, the same guy from yesterday. Same hoodie, same casual stride like he had nothing to hide. They sat on a bench. He leaned close. She laughed. He took her hand. I didn't need to see more. I drove away before I exploded. That night, she came home smelling like mint gum and something unfamiliar. She told me the grocery store was out of eggs. That she might go again tomorrow. I stared at the wall as she brushed her teeth, watched her reflection in the mirror. She caught my eyes for a split second, then looked away. I could feel it starting, that mental unraveling where every word, every gesture starts to feel false. I began to doubt everything. Who was this guy? How long had it been going on? Was it just kisses in the park, or more? Why the parks? Why out in the open? I started checking her phone. She had changed her passcode. She never used to have one. That week, things got worse. She was always going out for walks. Always had some vague reason to clear her head. She started dressing differently too subtly. New leggings. A new sports bra she definitely didn't wear for me. And every time she came home, she was glowing. But the worst part? She was nicer to me. Suddenly more affectionate. Making dinner. Asking how my day was. Like she was overcompensating. Like being kind would blind me to the truth I already knew. I played along. I smiled. I let her kiss me on the cheek like nothing was broken. But inside, I was counting down the days to the explosion I knew was coming. It happened by accident. I swear I wasn't snooping that night. I was just trying to plug in her charger. She'd left it under the couch again, and her phone buzzed right as I reached for it. The screen lit up. It was a notification from a calendar app. Meeting, 6 p.m., Bridgeview Park. Bring the red scarf. I just stared at it. She'd never used a calendar app before. She barely used reminders for doctor appointments. And now she's setting secret meetings with dress code instructions? Red scarf. Like it was some kind of code between them. I didn't tell her I saw it. I went to the garage, sat on the workbench stool, and just stared at my palms for a long time. That weird numbness was back again. Like my brain had left the building, and all I had left was static. I waited. At 5:55 p.m., she left. Going on a walk, she said, throwing on a hoodie and, yes, a red scarf. I didn't follow her this time. I drove to the park early and waited in the lot. Bridgeview wasn't like the other park. It was smaller, more hidden behind the woods. No playgrounds. No joggers. Just one trail and a single picnic table near the tree line. At 6:07, I saw her, walking up with a bounce in her step. He was already there. This time, I got out of the car. I couldn't take it anymore. I started walking toward them, trying to keep my voice from shaking, trying to keep my hands from doing something I'd regret. They didn't notice me at first. She was laughing at something he said, her hand on his shoulder like they'd known each other for years. When she turned and saw me, her smile disappeared so fast it was almost funny. I stopped 10 feet away. He stood up slowly, like he wasn't sure if I was going to punch him or not. Angela's voice cracked first. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? I said, this is my town, my park, my wife. The guy opened his mouth to say something, then closed it again. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Please, she said, stepping forward, lowering her voice. Let's not do this here. Why? I said, afraid someone might see? She didn't answer. He mumbled, I should go, and started walking away. I let him. I turned to Angela. She looked like a stranger. I asked one question. How long? She bit her lip. Didn't answer. I asked again. How long? For weeks, she said quietly. I didn't believe it. I still don't. I turned and walked back to the car. That night, she knocked on the guest room door. I want to talk, she said through the wood. I didn't respond. I made a mistake, she said. I've been confused. I thought we were over. I didn't think you cared anymore. I opened the door. Don't blame this on me, I said. You kissed him in front of me like I wasn't even real. She started crying. The kind of tears people cry when they know they've been caught, not when they're actually sorry. She said she'd end it. She said she already had. Said it wasn't physical, just emotional. I didn't believe that either. I slept in the guest room again. And the next morning, I called a lawyer. After I called the lawyer, I didn't tell Angela. Not yet. I needed time. I needed leverage. And part of me, some sick, hopeful part, still wanted to be wrong. Still wanted to believe maybe it wasn't as bad as it felt. But it was worse. It started with the messages. She had stopped letting her phone out of her sight, but people slip up. One morning, she left it on the bathroom counter while she showered. No lock screen this time. Maybe she was just careless. Maybe she was daring me. I scrolled fast. There was no contact named after him, of course. But there was one saved under a woman's name, Claire Yoga. I clicked it. It wasn't Claire. It was him. And the things they wrote to each other, it wasn't just emotional. It was everything. She told him what she wore for him. Sent photos. He called her Angel, which was the name I used to call her. They talked about times they met up in the car. About how he'll never know. About keeping this simple until it's time. Time for what? That was the first time my hands started to shake. I took screenshots of everything. I emailed them to myself. I backed them up on a hard drive and uploaded them to the cloud. I didn't even know why. I just needed proof. I needed something real in a marriage that suddenly felt fake. I thought that would be the worst of it, but then I found the folder. We had an old plastic bin in the closet, labeled taxes and docs. I was looking for my car title. What I found instead was a small yellow envelope shoved in the back with her handwriting on it. It said, Bridgeview, keep private. Inside were 6 printouts. Bank transfers. They weren't ours. She had opened a secret checking account months earlier. I traced 5 transfers from our joint savings, small amounts at first. $250, then $400. But it added up. Over $3,000 gone. Moved into a separate account she never told me about. One transfer had a memo line, rent. We didn't pay rent. We owned our house. So who was she paying rent for? I showed the documents to my lawyer the next day. He just sighed. This isn't just infidelity, he said. This is a financial betrayal. Depending on what we find, this could have serious legal consequences for her. That's when the idea of court stopped being emotional and started becoming necessary. That night, I didn't confront her. I acted normal. She smiled at me over dinner, as if we were okay again. She even reached for my hand across the table, and I held it. But in my head, I was counting receipts, memorizing dates, watching her face not with love, but like a man watching a suspect across an interrogation room. Because now, I knew. It started with a question. Just one. We were in the kitchen, both pretending we still lived in the same reality. She was making tea, scrolling her phone. I leaned against the counter and asked, Who's paying rent with our savings? She froze. No slow head turn. No, what are you talking about? Just silence. The kind of silence that says everything before a word even comes out. What? She finally said, too softly. I didn't flinch. $3,000 transferred to a checking account I never knew existed. Last transfer memo says rent. Whose rent, Angela? She tried blinking her way out of it, like this was just a misunderstanding, like she could charm her way back to neutral. It's not what you think, she said, almost whispering. No? Then tell me exactly what I'm thinking. I want to hear it from you. She looked away, set the mug down a little too hard. Her hands were trembling now. Fine, she snapped. It's his. He needed help, and I loaned him some money. You stole from our savings. I didn't steal. Was it a loan? I cut in. Or were you funding your little secret romance? Her eyes flared, but not with shame. With anger. You don't get to guilt me, she hissed. You've been absent for months. Emotionally checked out. You buried yourself in work. I felt invisible. And he made me feel alive again. There it was. The raw, selfish truth. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She was justifying it. That's your excuse? I said. I work long hours, so you start kissing strangers in parks and draining our savings account behind my back? He's not a stranger, she said, as if that somehow made it better. I think that was the moment something in me broke, not in a fiery, angry way, but something cold, clean. Like when a rope finally snaps after too much tension and just floats down, useless. I walked out. The next morning, I emailed everything to my lawyer, the screenshots, the bank documents, even the calendar notification about the red scarf. He replied within the hour. It's time. We move forward. We filed within the week. Angela still didn't believe I'd go through with it. She thought it was a bluff. She tried being sweet again, offering to cook dinner, suddenly remembering old songs we used to love. She even said, we don't need lawyers, let's be adults about this. But by then, it was already in motion. And when the papers showed up, served right at her workplace, she lost it. She came home in tears, slammed the door. You humiliated me, she shouted. I didn't respond. She went quiet for a few days after that, probably meeting with her own lawyer, probably realizing for the first time that this wouldn't be some clean little escape. The first time the word court came out of my lawyer's mouth, I felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear, because I knew this wasn't going to be clean. Relief, because finally, I wouldn't be the only one watching her lie. We're not just filing for divorce, he said. You've got financial misconduct, marital waste, and depending on what else we find, possibly fraud. I didn't even know what marital waste meant until that meeting. It means one spouse uses shared assets recklessly for their own benefit without the other knowing. And in some states, that's grounds for financial compensation in divorce proceedings. He had his assistant subpoena her bank records. Angela still thought we were just playing emotional chess. A few days later, she left her laptop open while she ran upstairs. My instincts took over. I didn't even hesitate. I opened her email. There were 2 folders, one named Receipts and one named L. Just L. Inside L were emails, lots of them, dozens. Some from burner Gmail accounts. Some forwarded messages between her and him. Discussions about getting a place together and waiting for the right time to leave. One email in particular stood out. I just need to get through the separation quietly. He's not stupid, but he's passive. He won't fight. We'll get through this clean, I promise. That was the one that finally made my vision blur. She didn't just cheat. She planned this. She thought I wouldn't fight. Thought I'd just roll over, sign some papers, split the assets, and let her walk off into a new apartment paid for with our money. The thing she underestimated? I had nothing left to lose now. My lawyer went to work. Subpoenas, statements, credit pulls. He traced another $1,200 in cash withdrawals from gas stations near that second park, small enough to avoid red flags, frequent enough to be a pattern. The account she used had been opened using a fake address, a mailbox rental service on the edge of town. By the end of that week, my lawyer sat across from me and said, I don't say this lightly, but she's made a serious mess. This is heading to full litigation unless she settles. And even then, we're asking for majority assets. Angela still hadn't hired her own attorney. She thought she could talk it out. So I invited her to the dining table, sat across from her, laid out a printed copy of just one of the emails she sent him. The one about me being passive. She went pale. I have more, I said calmly. Much more. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice cracking. I looked her dead in the eye. Everything you were willing to throw away for him. I'm taking it back in court. She left the room. Didn't come out for hours. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. She finally hired a lawyer. A cheap one, from what I heard. Probably couldn't afford better after she drained the savings. By then, the mask had dropped completely. She barely spoke to me in the house. We communicated through notes on the counter and text messages about the dog. But she still tried, once, late at night, to say she was sorry. I was walking past the living room, and she was sitting in the dark, wine in hand. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. I stopped, looked at her, and said the one thing I'd been holding in for months. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just didn't think you'd get caught. I walked away. Court was coming, and Angela was unraveling. She tried to act calm, but I saw it. Nails bitten down, pacing the hallway at night, snapping at small things. Her lawyer had told her the same thing mine told me. This wouldn't be a clean break. Not after the financial trail we uncovered. Not after the emails. Not after everything. Still, part of me thought, maybe she'll settle. But she didn't. She refused to admit she'd done anything wrong. Her official stance was emotional detachment, mutual distance, financial misunderstanding. Not cheating. Not theft. Not calculated betrayal. She was going to fight me. In the weeks before court, my lawyer prepped me like it was war. We pulled every transaction, organized the emails, got notarized witness statements from 2 friends who'd seen her with the other guy. Even got a private investigator involved. He'd confirmed the guy's name, employer, marital status. Turns out Angela's stranger in the park was a personal trainer at a boutique gym downtown. And get this, he was married. His wife had no idea. We contacted her through the PI. She didn't even believe it at first. Then she saw the proof, photos, messages, dates. I didn't ask her to testify, but she volunteered. Angela had no idea what was coming. But then, 3 days before our court date, something happened I didn't expect. My boss pulled me aside. Is everything okay at home? He asked. I said why. He hesitated, then said, your wife's attorney sent us a subpoena. She's claiming emotional distress and lost opportunities because of your work schedule. Says your neglect of the marriage created an unhealthy environment. I nearly laughed. Then I nearly threw up. She was trying to blame me in court, frame the story like she had been the one abandoned, as if the betrayal had started with me being busy. She wanted to win, not just save face. Win. That's when I realized something dark. She didn't care who she hurt anymore. She didn't care how far she had to go to justify herself, not even if it meant dragging my job, my reputation, my sanity through the mud. I called my lawyer immediately. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "We're going to have to be sharper than ever. You're walking into a courtroom with a woman who's trying to rewrite the entire history of your marriage." So we revised everything. He coached me on every possible question. We lined up financial experts, character witnesses, even had a backup strategy in case she tried to fake victimhood on the stand. I was exhausted, mentally cooked, but I wasn't going to lose. Not to her. Not after everything she'd done and tried to erase. The courtroom wasn't as dramatic as I'd imagined. No yelling, no pounding gavels. Just gray walls, polite nods, and quiet tension so thick it pressed on your chest. Angela wore a navy dress and that fake calm face she used when she thought she was smarter than everyone else. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Her lawyer was younger than mine, confident, slick suit, loud watch. The kind of guy who smiles too much. The judge glanced through the case file like he'd already seen enough to know this was going to be messy. And he was right. It started with the basics, names, dates, assets. The judge asked both sides if we intended to seek mediation. My lawyer said no. Angela's lawyer said, "Your Honor, we believe this is more complex than a simple mediation can resolve." You don't say. Then came the opening statements. My lawyer went first. Calm, precise. He didn't dramatize anything, just laid out the facts. Infidelity, secret bank accounts, unauthorized transfers, potential financial misconduct. He presented the story like a puzzle we were about to solve piece by piece. Then it was her lawyer's turn, and he spun a completely different tale. Mrs. M has suffered emotional neglect, isolation, and a lack of support from her spouse for several years, he said. Her attempts to reconnect were ignored. Her actions, while perhaps unwise, stem from desperation and loneliness. This is not a case of betrayal. It's a cry for help. I wanted to laugh, or stand up and hold up one of her emails. He makes me feel alive again. Let's keep this quiet until the separation. But I didn't. I sat still, jaw locked, fingers gripping my thigh under the table. Then the witness list began. Angela went up first. She lied. She said we'd grown apart years ago, that I had stopped showing affection, that she felt abandoned. She painted herself as a woman desperately trying to reconnect, only to be ignored by a husband too busy to care. Her voice cracked in all the right places. A tear slid down her cheek at exactly the right moment. It was theater. Controlled, practiced theater. Then her lawyer asked her directly, "Did you ever intend to leave your husband for this other man?" She hesitated, then said, "No, it wasn't serious." My lawyer stood up. "May I approach the bench?" The judge nodded. He handed over a sealed manila envelope. Inside, printed emails. The ones she sent. The ones where she called me passive, said she was counting down the days, and where she told the guy, "We'll get through this clean, I promise." The judge read them. Angela's face didn't move, but her eyes flicked down. Quick. Guilty. That was the first crack. The courtroom adjourned for the day after that. We were scheduled to return for final arguments and financial division in 2 days. Outside, she passed me in the hallway. For the first time since this started, she looked directly at me. "You didn't have to make this ugly," she said. I looked at her. Really looked. "No," I said. "You already did. I just brought a mirror." She walked away without another word. The final day in court felt heavier. There was this sense, like the room knew something big was coming. My lawyer had prepped me the night before. Stay calm. Don't react. Just let the truth speak for itself. Angela sat 2 tables away, shoulders back, face blank. She hadn't smiled once since the judge read those emails. Her lawyer still looked cocky, but a little less than before. The day began with finances. We presented the bank records. The transfers from our joint account to her secret checking account. The withdrawals near the second park. And then the kicker. My lawyer showed that the apartment she helped pay rent for, it wasn't even in her name. It was in his. The other guy. Signed just 2 weeks before I discovered the kiss in the park. First month's rent paid in cash, money pulled directly from our savings. The courtroom was dead silent. Angela stared at the table. Her lawyer whispered something, and she didn't even nod. Then came the witness. The PI had located the other guy's wife. She had agreed to provide a sworn statement, but then, last minute, decided she wanted to speak herself. The judge allowed it. She took the stand with a kind of quiet fury, calm, dignified, shaking just a little. She told the court how she had no idea about the affair, how her husband had lied to her, too, how Angela had pretended to be just a friend, even around their kids, and how discovering the truth through my lawyer had destroyed her trust and family overnight. She ended with one line I'll never forget. She didn't just betray her husband. She helped destroy mine, too. Angela couldn't look up. Then the judge asked both sides for final remarks. Her lawyer tried. He really did. He talked about emotional distress and mutual failures in communication. He said she was misguided but not malicious. My lawyer stood up and simply said, "Your Honor, the evidence is clear. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern, planned, hidden, and executed using shared assets. And at no point did she come clean voluntarily. She only admitted what we caught her in. That's not remorse. That's damage control." The judge nodded slowly. He asked Angela to stand. "What do you have to say before I issue a ruling?" he asked. She finally looked up. Her voice was small. "I never meant for it to go this far." The same line she said to me that night in the living room. No apology. No ownership. Just damage control. The judge took a 10-minute recess. I went outside, leaned against the stone railing, and just breathed. I didn't know what the ruling would be, but I knew one thing for sure. The truth was in the open now. Everyone had seen her for who she really was. 10 minutes felt like an hour. When the judge returned, he didn't waste time. He opened the folder on his bench, looked over his glasses, and went straight into it. "This case has been difficult," he began, but clarity emerged through the evidence. Angela sat still, jaw clenched, staring forward like if she didn't blink, none of it would be real. The judge continued, "I see a pattern of deliberate deception, financial misconduct, a breach of marital trust that goes beyond emotional strain and into tangible harm." He turned a page. My hands were folded in front of me. I didn't move. "The court finds the respondent," he looked directly at Angela, "to be solely responsible for the breakdown of the marriage. There is sufficient proof of intentional dissipation of marital funds. Therefore, the court rules as follows." And then came the sentence I had been praying for. "Full division of joint assets will favor the petitioner at a 70-30th split. The respondent will return $4,250 in marital funds misused and forfeit claim to the marital home. Custody of the family pet remains with the petitioner." I didn't react outwardly, but inside, everything shattered and rebuilt in one moment. It was justice, not revenge, just truth, finally given weight. Angela didn't move. Her lawyer looked defeated, started packing up documents without saying a word. As I stood to leave, the judge said one more thing, directed at her. "Actions have consequences, Mrs. M. This courtroom doesn't measure feelings. It measures proof, and you left a trail too deep to ignore." Outside, I didn't look back. I walked out into the cold afternoon air and just stood on the courthouse steps. Not victorious, not triumphant, just free. I'd spent months feeling like I was crazy, like I was overreacting, like the kiss in the park was something small, something forgivable. But it was never about the kiss. It was about the choice, about the pattern of deception, the way she smiled while lying, the way she wrote emails planning a future without me while still sharing my bed. She thought I wouldn't fight back. She was wrong. That's the end of the story. I won in court. I kept the house. I reclaimed the truth. And I walked away with something she never had from the beginning: integrity. If you're reading this and you've ever been gaslit, lied to, made to question your own instincts, trust yourself. Because sometimes the worst betrayal isn't what they do. It's how calmly they do it.